I tried to see why Sweden are in the front line in the world about using biomass and other renewable energy sources for the future. So I will start to present a little bit for our guest from abroad and a short presentation about Sweden. We are about 9 million inhabitants. Compared to the United States, we are approximately the same size as the area of California. We are located in a latitude equal with Anchorage in Alaska. Our market is approximately 1/30 of the market in the United States. But we are the center of the use of renewable energy in the whole Europe. There is no doubt about that. So, what about this? 2010, we have 31.7% of all consumption of energy in Sweden comes from biomass. That includes all the transport, all the heating, all the industrial production, all consumption of energy are 31.7% coming from biomass. We have 46.3% of the total energy use coming from renewables. And the preliminary numbers for 2011 is 48%. So almost half of the energy use we use in this country are renewable energy, coming from renewable energy sources. We can say also that 1 of 3 new registered cars who are sold in Sweden today are environmentally friendly cars, driven by ethanol, biodiesel, biomethane, or something. 1 of 3 new cars. In America, think about that. If that had been in the United States, it would make a huge difference. Do you agree? We are in the front line. There is no doubt about that. And that is depending on that we, back in 1990, put it in a carbon tax upon the fossil energy. And we have heard this morning from many speakers that, and I can agree about, that there will happen nothing if we don't have the politicians behind us. Because the amount of coal in the world are so cheap to dig up and use. And if the coal industry don't have to pay the full cost, that would be a mission impossible to make a difference. So everything are depending on political decisions. There is no doubt about that. You need to have the politicians behind us. So this is, in the development in Sweden has been possible because we have in 40 years, so 30, 40 years now, talking about the polluters pay principle. Those who make the damage have to pay the damage. The bad guys pay the good guys. That's the message from this. And we have had a very, and we have as well, but we have had it back in 1990, very brave politicians who put on the carbon tax on the market. You can mention that there was the only country in Europe who putting in a tax will raise the cost for the Swedish industry. And they said that we are the only country in the world who will be killing our own industry and make the jobs going abroad and so on. But the politicians stand by the decision. They had to make a small step backwards, but they stand by and they put in the energy. So the principle that those who polluters has to pay. Approximately the numbers here I have translated into US dollars. I'm not sure about the rate between the Swedish krona and the dollar, but the level is approximately this. For heating oil, we are paying $1.75 US per gallon in the gas. 1.75. That was the price for petrol today, $3 approximately. So it will rise the price with 50–60% in the terms of US. Coal, we are paying in short term $366 per short ton. For diesel, for example, it's also 175, and for petrol, gasoline, it's 140 US dollars. So, of course, this causes some directions, some new directions of the choice of the public. And what I have to add to this is that we have done this without very few direct substitutes. We have, from the governmental side, making more indirect substitutes. For example, when we introduced the carbon tax, that is not given a privilege to any of the renewable energy sources. That will lift up all kinds of renewables. So by making the use of fossil energy more expensive, we open up for renewables. And for the green cars, for example, we said that if you put in a green car, you have a tax reduction if you're a company-owned car. You don't pay so much in tax advantage to use a free car, your company-owned. But that means that when the companies buy a new car, it is profitable for them to buy a green car, and after 2 or 3 years that's a used car and it comes out to the market and private people can take care of that. And so if we look upon grants from the government, we use the grants only trying to overbridge the value of debt. We make grants for something that we know that this is something interesting. And to establish this on the market, we can have some support in the beginning. But there is no support raising forever. It's only a starting up grant that we. Otherwise, we use the grants many times also for demonstration, to make a good success stories, to show up the success stories, be visible for other investors or what it is. So the final use of Sweden is divided approximately in the half. That we have biomass, we have windmills, we have hydropower on one side. It's approximately the 50%. And we have nuclear, we have coal, we have heating oil in the other side. You can see I count nuclear as a fossil energy because it's depending on uranium, which are unendable sources of energy. So, when I've been in the United States lately and so on, many of the people I talk to, they see that it's equal. If we want to be renewable, we have to sacrifice. When I talk about cutting down emissions using biomass, many Americans and many other people, also in Southern Europe, they talk about going back to the 18th century. We are going back to horse and whatever it is. We can't move and we have to sacrifice the way of living. So what have we in Sweden has to sacrifice to do this? Is the future a starvation? Is it misery? What will happen? What had happened in Sweden since 1990 when we put on this tax, carbon tax, in the Swedish state? Of course, if we increase the cost of fossil energy, people will be more profitable to use something else. So of course there will decrease the use of the outlet, the emissions of carbon dioxide, and we have dropped approximately 9% from 1990. But during the same period, we have increased the GDP with 48%. And this is something I think even the Americans understand. What's this? This is dollar, this is money, this is business. And how, so we don't have to sacrifice anything. We can show the world that we have made business to be green. This is big business today in Sweden. And one of the reasons that we have done this development is that since 1990, we have increased the use of biomass with 80%. So we almost doubled up the use of energy since 1990. And of course that has been possible because the cost of fossil energy has been more expensive. It's been more profitable to use biomass. But what's interesting there is other sources as well because we have success in this. But this is one of the main sources. And many people we'll talk a little bit about exporting money. And this is, if the money stays in the local economy. So it's not the biomass itself or the positive way. It is what the biomass cause and side effect who are the real interesting for Sweden as the country, for the Kingdom of Sweden. We can say that most of the money stays in the local economy. Think about this, 50% of the Swedish total energy costs are staying in the local economy. Put all the billing, all the money you pay in the table and take the half part of it and let it stay in the local economy. Of course it will make a difference. Of course it will. Every terawatt hours of biomass as we will use 300, create 300 new jobs. Not in Stockholm, so many, not in Gothenburg, but in the rural area, on the countryside. Like cities in Lidköping, like cities in Kalix, cities in Mora. All these small societies, all these small municipalities have the advantage of this. And so if I make some conclusions about it, I can say that the GDP has increased with 48% since 1990. In total, if we translate biomass use into fossil energy, we have in total 35,000 direct jobs created in the business of biomass. And we take it 30 times, so we can translate it into the American economy for that. 18.2 billion US dollars has stayed in the local economy. If we translate this into fossil energy instead of using our own. We have cut down the emissions of carbon dioxide with 31%. Or 30, yeah, it's approximately, no, I'm sorry, 30 million tons of carbon dioxide. And then we should compare to the Swedish outlet today, which are 57, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's about 57 million tons. So that is, we have been 30 million tons more if we have used oil or gas instead of biomass. And since 1990, this has, of course, created an upcoming industry in Sweden. Our technology are in the front line in the world. Even if we compare to Austrian and German technology, we are in the front line in Sweden. But maybe some of the Austrian companies have more developed steering systems because the difference between the pricing between oil and biomass are lower. So they had to burn biomass with the same comfort as they burn oil to be. In Sweden we have a more profitable way, that more profit to save in your own pocket when they use biomass. But we are in the combustion zone, we are in the combustion, the technology, absolutely in the front line in the world about this. And what's a little bit different in Sweden compared to other countries, we use biomass all the way from the small houses in a small stove all the way up to big and huge district heating plants for combined heat and power. So in Austria, there are normally only the private homes who use it. In America as well, there is a pellet stove or something. But we use it everywhere in the society. So that is what's coming up. So if I just try to make a translation, what had happened if US been in the same situation that Sweden are today? Of course, the GDP will rise in the United States. That will create approximately 25 million new jobs. Correct me, Bill, if my numbers is too low. I think it's a little bit too low. You present 3 million jobs only in New England about it, so perhaps it's even a low number. 546 billion US dollars will stay in the local economies all over the place. 930 million tons of carbon dioxide. That is approximately 30% of the output of the United States. And you will have a more stable economy who can handle the economic crisis. I don't know if you coming abroad have noticed that the machinery in Sweden runs full effect today. We are in a high conjuncture. It's only the media that said that it's an economical crisis, and it will come to Sweden as well. Wait and see, it will come. But if you look at the order box and so on, they are fully covered by orders. Sweden goes like a train right now. And it does that because we have that money to spend. So the aim with the taxation was to promote the carbon neutral use of sustainable energy sources. And that's not only biomass, we have the water, the hydro, both in tidewater and in power stations, in waves. We have solar energy, we have windmills, we have geothermal energy and so on. And I can promise you that we are in the middle of the energy center of Sweden when we are in the city of Linköping. I can promise you that within 20 minutes drive, you can see whatever you want to see. It is maybe not the geothermal energy from this side, we don't have so much of that, but otherwise you can see whatever you want to see. We have it within 20 minutes from here. So you are really in the center of the hottest area in Europe for this. David talked about that today is the overshoot day. That was not planned from the beginning, we didn't know that. But this is the overshoot day, and the day of today is the day that we have produced what the Earth can restore sustainable from. So from now on, we are borrowing from the coming generations. I will add to that in 1987, there was a balance. What the Earth can create and what we use. It's not a balance of who will use it. There is a big difference between the citizens in the United States and Canada who are living a carbon footprint who are twice as large as we are in Europe, and 7 times larger than the Asian and the Africans coming out here. But in 1987, it was a balance of the Earth. We heard Per talk about that we need 1.5 planet Earth to be sustainable. I haven't seen, I don't believe that you have seen the missing half planet Earth. So we have to do something. We must do something about this. And that's what I say that wood pellets is a good key for success, because wood pellets is in an economical way a business. This is a bioenergy business. You can transport biomass in a pelletized form from where you have the raw material to where you have the end user. And the transport cost is very low. In Sweden, we are today using approximately 2.4 million tons of pellets. That is 20% of the whole use of pellets in the whole world we are using it in Sweden. 800,000 tons of that are coming are used in small houses and private homes. And we can see that the numbers are increasing very rapidly and so on. And we don't have seen the roof of the use of pellets in Sweden anyhow. But since 2010, United States are #1 on using pellets in the world. We are using 2.6 million tons. But we are using 2.4 million tons with the citizens of Miami and the area of Florida. So we have a little bit advantage still about that, I think. We use pellets for all kinds of heating, and that makes a difference between our countries, because in Sweden and Denmark we have both the residential and the commercial building are using pellets. If we go to countries like Belgium and Netherlands, they use lots of pellets, but they use it only to replace coal in big coal plants. They have no private market for that. And if we go to Austria, Germany, Italy, the United States, that's only private homes. So we are unique in the world that we are using pellets all over the market. There is not a special market for pellets, we use it all over the market, in total market. I had the advantage to go to Postcode Lottery environmental session in Stockholm in September 2010. And one of the invited speakers was the foreign President Clinton. And he said that in US today, if you put in $1 billion US then in a coal plant, to build new coal plant, that will create 860 jobs. If you put it in the solar industry, depending on if it's thermal or PV solar, it's something around just below 2,000 new jobs. If you put it in windmills, it's 4,300 new jobs. And if you made it in energy efficient constructions, there is 6,600 new jobs. So why are they still building coal plants? I can understand why. It's much, much more profitable to look for other opportunities for that. Another speaker on that conference was Tony Blair, former Prime Minister of UK. And he got the question, now in the time of economic crisis in the world, is there any idea that we can spend money on the climate effect or something? And he answered, it's now, it's the time. Because the world is spending millions and billions of dollars just to save the economy, to make solutions for the economic crisis. And Tony Blair said that the clean tech industry, already today in the United Kingdom, create more jobs than the coal, steel, and big shipping industry gives together, already today. So there is lots of opportunities in this. And that is what my message to everything. We should look upon the opportunities instead of the barriers. And what we have done in Sweden, you know, our outlet of the CO2 emissions is approximately what China increased in 1 month or something like that. So it don't make a difference what we are doing. But we are a developed, at least we believe we are a developed country, and we can show the rest of the world that it is possible to make money. We don't sacrifice anything. We develop our economy, we make good business with this. And I think that is the message that we will bring overseas and bring also to the United Kingdom when we get back to your problems. So thank you a lot for the possibility for myself to speak in this conference that is the Chalmers University right now. Okay.
You mentioned that you retained in your economy since 1990 $18.2 billion equivalent US. But how much tax, do you have an idea how much tax you collected and then how much might have gone into subsidies?
If you take 1,400 Swedish crowns and multiplicate that with 30 million tons with 30 millions, you have the numbers of Swedish crowns, and then you can translate to dollars with a little bit less than 7.
So, in other words, how much of that money actually went into the treasury and stayed there? You know, what percentage of the tax did you collect and then?
Let's say in this that then the much of that, the most part of that money goes into a big black hole. Okay. So in one way we put it on the roads, we hopefully build new railroads and infrastructure, possible because we have that money. But as David talked about, the bad guys have to pay the good guys. If you have a refund system, that the bad guys pay the tax and someone else have a refund for that. I normally say that you can look upon the aluminium can. You pay a tax when you pay a fee to use that aluminium. So and then they pay it back and have a...
So it all didn't go back into...
Yeah, we can transfer that to the carbon system. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that is circulating. But as soon as you're putting in new carbon to the system, you have to pay a tax, as we speak. But what David would like to have, that is a refund when they dig down the biochar in the ground. Yeah, they can have the money back.
One other question. You talked about ethanol cars. What percentage of the fuel, okay?
Of the biofuel,
yeah, does it have to be 85% ethanol for you to count it as an ethanol car?
I probably are not the best man to answer that. Correct me. I'm sure there is someone in the audience who have better numbers than I have. But I say that ethanol is available in almost every gasoline station.
In the U.S., 10% of our gasoline must.
Okay, we have 5% in Sweden today. We will increase it to 8%.
Because
Because
it's required 10%.
Yeah.
It's going to 15%.
yeah, you can say you have 10% of your environmental friendly cars.
Okay.
But it depends how you make ethanol.
You give a tax credit for that?
Not for that.
Oh, okay.
So that is still fossil energy. So you need to have fully numbers of it.
Okay, thank you.
I shouldn't make up the time schedule more than this, and I would like to hope that I can introduce it